No, you don't need to memorize hundreds of endgames to become a good player. As a chess master, I know way less positions than you might think, because what really matters is understanding the logic of most endgames. In this video, I will show you 3 examples, 3 endgames I played, where I try to apply the same 3 principles, even if every starting position is completely different from the other. Let's start with the first one. This is the ugliest pawn structure in history of chess. What are those doing? Usually a pawn is very weak if it cannot be protected by any other pawn. And there is none of these pawns that can be protected by another pawn. So they are all weak at the same time. They're attacking my rook. I could take here already winning a pawn and attacking both rooks. And why not? We win material, so we do it. Once they take, I'm going to just take back this bishop, because anyway the 2 rooks are under attack, so they cannot save both of them at the same time. And I will take one or the other in the moment that they move one rook away. So if they move this rook, I will take that one. If they move this rook, I will move that one. But I want them to use a tempo to move away the piece. Okay, very good. Now, how to play endgames. Let's try to use it as an example. We have an extra pawn, but how to win this? This is super hard if you don't have a clear plan. Let's start by activating the rook, which is the only piece that was not playing right now. And first rule, rooks are very strong in endgames in the 2nd or in the 7th rank. Why? Because usually is where the opponent pawns are. So if you're black, you want to place a rook on the 2nd rank. If you're white, you want to place your rook on the 7th rank. Now, as you can see, they don't have access to my 7th rank. But I have access to their 2nd. I'm threatening to go with my rook on d2, so they should do something to stop it. They don't do anything, so we just slide here. Then, a second advice for endgame is that the king becomes a very important piece. So right now I cannot join the action, but at some point I might want to use my king. Usually the king is such a great piece to go capture pawns around the board. And then we get to concept number 3, not yet here. Now we are activating the knight even more. The knight is attacking this bishop, this pawn, and I think we are going to grab a second pawn, because why not? Well, if we do, then they go with the rook here. But I'm all right. I calculated that if they go here, I can simply go back with the knight attacking the bishop. Now I take back. And now we get to point number 3. Push past pawns. We don't win this endgame unless I'm able to promote one of my pawns. So I could start to push this one, but actually I see another opportunity to win one more pawn, and so why not? I'm attacking 2 at the same time. There is no way to defend both of them. What they could try to do is to counterattack one of my pawns. Okay, they are moving the rook here, attacking this pawn. I can take still either this one or the other one, but I don't want to let any counterplay. For example, if I would take this one, suddenly they are sliding in my 7th rank and then attacking all my pawns. I don't want to allow that. So I will push b6. The pawn is protected by 2 pawns. That's why it's good to have pawns that can protect each other, because it's then very hard. Now, if white wants to try to win a pawn, they need to try to attack this one, and it's super hard. Okay, I will take this one. Now the king is attacking here, so we gotta move our rook. We will bring the rook over there, and then we will start to push this pawn. There we go. Advance. All right, so they want to trade. So trades are in general good for us, but what I will do here is to let them do it. So I want them to take. Why? Because if I take, after rook takes, I have 2 disconnected pawns. And pawns next to each other are way better because it's way easier to slide them up. So I will just try to go closer with my king, waiting for them to make the trade. Okay, they are pushing another pawn. So I will go also closer with my king, closer to my king. Now I'm threatening to clean the board even more. and they have to make a decision. If they just move the rook to defend this pawn, then this one is falling. So maybe they want to first trade and then try to defend. But then there is a very nice staircase example where you can simply promote these 2 pawns. Now, I could take this pawn, but then I have pawns that are all disconnected. So actually, I decide not to take a pawn and to just keep advancing. How do I do it? What I need to, there is a path to make sure that every single pawn is protected at any point. So I will do rook here, then I will advance with the rook, then I will advance with this pawn, then with this other pawn, then with the rook, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's do this one. Important to make sure that there is no stalemate, but white has so many available moves still. Okay, we keep going. One step at a time towards the glory. Okay, we push even more. They have a check, but it's just a check. The rook is trying to block us from pushing, and now you see the staircase. We go up with the rook so that the rook is protecting both squares where the pawn could advance next. So depending what the white rook is threatening, we are going to take one or the other. This is a free cheese macaroni, so why not? If the king is moving here, now we abandon the plan of promoting because we have a nice checkmate. GG's. New game that is about to be converted to an endgame. I'm going to trade off the queens to reach an endgame where I have a very fun advantage. The bishop pair, these 2 beautiful bishops. As always, as in every position, middle game, opening, endgame, you have to play with all your pieces. Active pieces is one of the most important chess principle. I'm taking now here, or should I push? I will actually push. And usually when you have the bishop pair, you want to open up the position, meaning that you would like to trade pawns. But in this particular position, look at their pieces. Where is this knight going? They are really a little bit cramped, lacking space. So this gives me a very nice opportunity to just develop comfortably every single piece. Now there is a threat. This rook is looking at the bishop, which is unprotected, meaning that they could try to attack this pawn one more time, for example, with the move f3. And if I take, I lose to the bishop. And if I don't take, well, they're gonna take next. And this pawn would be attacked 3 times while it's just protected once. So I need to do something about it. And I will go for the move bishop d5. What I'm doing, I'm moving the bishop away, protecting the pawn a second time. Plus, I'm also being a little bit sneaky. All right, they are anyway going for this. Now my pawn is protected 2 times, still attacks 3 times, so I need to take. And I was being sneaky because I was provoking the move c4, which is on one side, yes, attacking the bishop, but on the other side is weakening this pawn, because that pawn doesn't have anymore the friend, the bro, protecting it. All right. I don't like taking with this pawn. Every time you leave pawns alone, isolated, they can no longer be protected by any other pawns. And so they are, by default, weaknesses, weak pawns. Now I will try to bring out all my pieces. I've been talking about that a lot before, so it's time to do it. And the 2 bishops are out in very beautiful squares, and I still need to do something about my rooks. Where are the rook going? In endgame, but also in middle games. Well, rooks in general love open files. There is one clear open files here, so probably one of my rook is going to be there. But if the rook moves there, well, it's facing the other rook. Now, the nice part is that there is no way to defend this rook with the other rook, because if the knight is moving here, this is a free cheese macaroni, meaning that I won the fight for the only open file. And now this position is already getting super juicy, and you can see the difference between having active pieces and kind of sad pieces. The strongest placement for the rook is usually the 2nd rank, if you're black. If you're white, you know, is the 7th rank. Now it's already deadly. So they're attacking this bishop, but I can take a free cheese macaroni here with check. They have to move, and if I can take this pawn without them to be able to recapture, that would be checkmate. So they are really in big trouble. So what I will do, I will push this pawn. And my idea is to push it even forward and to take there. And now, is there a way for them to protect that pawn? Yes, there is with the knight. So probably they want to go out with the other knight. Going backwards with this knight would be pretty sad. And that seems to me pretty much the only option, which also lets the rook out. I don't like knight here. The knight is on the side of the board, going in the wrong direction. So I will play g4. I'm attacking this pawn. And now there is no longer a way to defend it, because this knight cannot go there, is hanging. This knight can go there, but I can just snap it with my bishop. And the rook and this knight cannot do anything to defend. The rook is desperately trying to join the game. And there I have already so many good moves. I could simply snap this pawn here. And I have a great position. But I calculated a very nice idea. Pawn takes. Now, if they take this rook, I'm taking back with the pawn, giving a check, and my pawn is attacking the rook. So I'm winning massive amount of material. And if they wouldn't have done that, I also have a threat. I can push my pawn, giving a check, attacking the rook, and promoting a pawn. So this is probably their best option, but now I take back, I'm giving a check, attacking the rook. The only move is to take here. Now I promote, make a queen, and I'm threatening the kiss of death. A beautiful checkmate, which we can't do just yet, because the square is now controlled by the knight, but we give a check. The king has to move up. Or maybe not, the knight is covering, and now we just take. And this is kiss of death. In this position, we have an endgame with an extra pawn. But the way to convert this position to a win is a very long way. We need to start by definitely bring out all our pieces. The knight, the bishops. This knight is under attack, so the question is, do we move it backwards or do we protect it? We can protect it with the bishop. But it's kind of dangerous, because once we bring the bishop out, then this pawn is unprotected. So after knight here, I don't like it. That's why I will bring my knight back. And we'll go to the most natural square on f3. Looks amazing. Now we go out with the bishop, looking at this pawn, and then we are ready to castle. Then the only thing left is to think about what to do on the queen side. Alright, they're pushing this pawn. I don't really like this move. I will castle. My next move is going to be knight out. Now this is very interesting, because they have a possibility to capture this knight, and I have to capture with a pawn, leaving me with two double pawns, which are usually a weakness. But once the opponent has the bishop in fianchetto, is really not a good idea to give it away, because it leaves lots of squares around the king kind of weak. For example, this pawn would be hanging if the bishop is not there, longer there. That's why probably they are not taking. Now I'm bringing the bishop out, setting up a nice threat. The pawn cannot easily be protected, right? How to protect that? The knight cannot do it. Usually the queen is defending that pawn, but now there are no queens on the board, so they are not protecting it. They want to take here, but then we can take back. Probably their idea is that once this pawn is there, this one is also weak, and there is an idea of knight d4. But I don't mind. I will take this pawn anyway, because even if they go for this fancy trade of pawn, because now I have to give away either this pawn or the other one, well, I have got a very nice advantage, which is the bishop pair. Ooh, I don't like this move, because now the pawn is blocking the squares for the knight to go. Amazing, they are attacking. Attention, there are some unprotected pieces, but I will bring my bishop here, pinning the knight. And if they play knight here, I'm able to just bring my bishop back, protecting this pawn. Oh, wait. Well, if they bring this knight here, I could just snap it. But then they take this bishop, so it's just a trade. I have a choice. Anyway, they're not going for it. And they are just attacking my bishop. I could just bring the rook here, protecting it. Not a bad move. Not at all. I will do it, because you have to activate your pieces all the time. And the rooks, especially the rook on f1, was staring at a wall of a pawn. So not really a good piece. Also, this rook needs a better place in this ward, so we'll bring it to b1. All these moves to just complete the first step, play with all the pieces, bring out all of them. I think there is a problem. This knight is unprotected, so we can just move this bishop to any square, and we are good. But I will bring the bishop back here, and I'm not afraid to trade the bishop. By the way, if I would have taken this, it's true I'm attacking the rook, but the rook can trade, and the rook is trading, and then they can take back the bishop. So I was not winning material. Okay, they are protecting the knight. Now, most of my pieces are out. I will go with the king here. Why? I am protecting this pawn. So, consolidating a little bit my position. I have an extra pawn, but I have quite some weaknesses. This pawn is weak, this pawn is weak. So I need to proceed very, very careful. Okay, I really don't like this move. The knight is going where? Like, the only sense of this move is if I take. But I'm never gonna trade my strong bishop for this sad knight. Let's call it sad. Okay, activate the rooks even more. I will jump with my rook over here, attacking the knight, and I want to bring the other rook there. By the way, I didn't mention what is probably their idea of going with the knight out, and is that this pawn is now hanging. Luckily, okay, they are not taking because this other pawn is counterattack. Now I'm able to push it, and still my advantage is growing. I still have an extra pawn. I managed to consolidate this pawn that is now protected by another pawn. This pawn is also well protected by the king, so I'm doing good. Now they're attacking this bishop. I could again trade, but I don't want to trade my strong bishop. So what I do? I improve my other rook. These are my favorite plans in chess. Play with all your pieces and improve your war's piece. And also, I like to say, when it's an equal trade, when it's about trading 3 points for 3 points, it's never equal. It's always helping either one player or the other. So always try to see, who is this trade really helping? Okay, now another trade. Who is this trade really helping? Well, if I take, I'm first of all getting rid of my double pawn. So in general, feels like good. But this pawn is then under attack. And I don't have an easy way to defend. Well, probably this is an easy way to defend. But in general, I see another beautiful idea. And this, sorry, I was shortly confused. And it's to push the pawn. Because once I push, this pawn is now passed. It's a passed pawn. And passed pawns are so important for endgames. Well, because they can become queens. All right, they are trying to do the same. They also want to create a pass pawn, but they are lacking something extremely important, which is, what are they lacking? This is what I want to play. This pawn is lacking defense. Not simple to make sure the pawn stays protected. One move that comes to mind is rook a6. Okay, this is for sure bad because I am going to take. They take back and I take. Now we have 2 extra pawns. That's true, these 2 extra pawns are doubled, but still, there are 2 extra pawns. The knight is attacking here, which is protected by the bishop and by the rook. I will have to play this move because this rook needed protection. So now if they take, I take here. And if they take here, I take back with the rook protecting my bishop. So everything is working just perfectly. This position is still a long way to be won. If my pawn would be here, so would be able to protect this pawn and to potentially also advance, would be way better. But this is still complicated. What I will try to do is to create a second pass pawn on this side of the board. But for now, I think I need to protect this one. Yup, so this pawn was attacked a little bit too many times, so I need to defend it. As you can see, now I don't have a way to move on, because if I move this bishop, I lose this pawn. If I move the rook or the other rook, all these pieces are kind of stuck. Well, now I have the possibility to trade, and in this case, the trade might be a good option for me, because this knight is potentially sneaky, wants to come here, then it's quite annoying. So I will go for the trade, and we reach an endgame, a rook endgames. And let's not forget the principal active king. The king become a very important piece. Now I cannot push this pawn because it would be hanging. But if I bring my king to protect the pawn, then I'm able to move the rook away. So I could, for example, go with the rook up and then push the pawn. So the king becomes really super important. And the reason is that it cannot really get checkmated. So you can go to the center of the board pretty much safely. There we go. This is my plan. I want to push this pawn, but I cannot because it's hanging. But now I'm able to move the rook because this pawn is protected 2 times. And then I will be able to advance, and then I will be able to push the king even more. Now, attention, I can't push because the rook is hanging, so I will push my king up. Yes. And now I'm threatening to really advance. One more idea is to try to create another pass pawn at the same time, a second one, because then the rooks need to choose which one do we stop, so they are a little bit overloaded. So also trying to create a second pass pawn would be a great plan, but for now we are bringing the king. All right, they are trying to find some sort of counterplay. This would be a bit nasty, so I want to give a bit more air to my king, because imagine, this here is almost mate. So I'm pushing here. I'm doing 3 things at the same time. Giving a bit more hair to my king, creating a second pass pawn, and also if they take, I'm undoubling my doubled pawns. Actually a 4th thing as well, because I'm attacking this pawn, which is now really, really weak. So my position is improving. Move after move. Lovely. So I can I can push. And I really like to do that. My pawn is 1 step closer to promotion, and now these rooks are kind of stuck to defend that square. This is just a check. I can go back here. My pawn is protected. My rook is protected. Everything is protected right now. I have a threat. I'm threatening to give this check, trading the rook, and then the pawn is really super, super close. Okay, they're threatening to take here, so I will just protect with my pawn to keep it super safe. Now this is interesting, because they want to take, and then this pawn is unprotected. But I think I'm just in time to do this super strong move. And if they take, my pawn is about to promote. If they don't take, let's say they take this pawn, well, then I'm going to first trade the rooks and then push this pawn, and the pawn is gonna promote. So they don't really have many choices. Probably they need to take, and after pawn takes, bring the king to stop the pawn. They don't do it. Even in that case, I can easily protect the pawn with the pawn and then run the other one. Now I can just push, and there is no way to stop this pawn. You have to go up back with the rook, but then you sacrifice a rook. The king is not stopping anything, because this is just going to be mate in 1, actually. This is just checkmate. GG's. These 3 principles combined with good calculation will make you win way more endgames. So it's time for you to check out my step-by-step guide on how to calculate in chess. This is essential for endgames, but absolutely important for every stage of every game of chess. So check it out. Thank you for watching. Ciao!